What is up, YouTube? This is AMK at Purple Sky 11, and you're watching part 24 of my deep dive into the Benoit investigation. This particular video will be focused on the grand jury subpoenas that are scattered throughout the pages of the Benoit case file, and a few interesting things I discovered hidden within these pages. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share with anyone you think might be interested, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And be sure to hit that bell so you receive notifications when new videos drop. And if you like what you see and would like to support the channel, you can find a link to my Cash App in the description box, followed by a link to a very brief, very simple video with instructions for how to donate. This channel is almost solely viewer funded, and your donations allow me to have more time for research and video creation. A huge thank you to the viewers who have donated. Without you, none of this would be possible. And with all of that out of the way, let's get into this video. Okay, so we're going to go over the grand jury subpoenas in order of the dates that they were issued. So we're going to begin with the subpoena for the Delta Airlines flight information. And the details surrounding this subpoena are covered in part 7 of my series. For today, we are just looking at the subpoenas. So this Delta Airlines flight information begins on page 193 of the document. And we're going to look at this subpoena here, the State of Georgia, County of Fayette, subpoena for the production of documentary evidence to Delta Airlines. It says, "Greetings, you are hereby commanded to be and appear in Fayette County Grand Jury on the 10th day of September 2007 at 9:00 a.m. and bring with you there to be presented certain documents, items, articles, or things, to wit, any and all information related to travel plans for any member of the Benoit family during the month of June 2007. Information to include but not be limited to name, dates of travel, destinations, canceled or changes in flight plans, any call records for June 23, 2007 with Mr. or Mrs. Benoit, to include topic of conversations if available." It says failure to disclose could impede an ongoing criminal investigation. And this information is to be used as evidence by the State of Georgia in a certain case pending before the court in the matter of the State of Georgia versus FNU LNU. And when we talked about this more in previous videos, we learned that FNU LNU is an acronym that stands for First Name Unknown, Last Name Unknown. So we honestly don't have any idea what this grand jury case pending before the court was about, because we don't know who the defendant was. It could have been Benoit, or it could have been something bigger like a steroid investigation or something that Congress wanted when they were looking into the WWE and their wellness policy in 2007. We don't know. We may never know. For this particular subpoena, it's to Delta Airlines, and the State of Georgia wants the information relating to that flight change on July 23rd of 2007, when Benoit claimed to have overslept and missed that flight to the show. And I would imagine police probably want this information due to the fact that it appeared as if the flight had been changed prior to Benoit actually making the call to Delta to change it. And this subpoena was issued on the 27th day of June 2007 for the grand jury on the 10th day of September 2007. And this is signed by a clerk of the Superior Court. And then down here at the bottom, it says, "In lieu of appearing, you may mail this copy to Detective Fenimore at Fayette County Sheriff's Department, or you may fax them to this number." And it looks like, in lieu of appearing, they have decided just to fax the information requested. Please see part 7 of my series for more information as to the outcome of that particular part of the investigation. So, quick recap. This first subpoena was issued the 27th day of June 2007. That's 2 days after discovery of the crime scene. And this was for a grand jury that was set to convene on the 10th day of September at 9 a.m. And we can see the case number up here is 0705855. And that case number is going to be important to note. You'll see why in a minute. So let's start a timeline to keep track of these dates, and we'll add to it as we go. Now, like I said, I'm going through the subpoenas in order of date issued, and this next one is a bit shocking, and I didn't notice this before now, but the next subpoena that was issued is actually missing from these documents. And I think that this, well, I don't think, I know that this here is a response. You can see right here, this is from Wachovia, dated July 2nd, 2007. To Fayette County Sheriff's Office Detective Fenimore, and it's regarding a subpoena that was received on June 28th. So we can infer that the subpoena was issued at some point prior to the 28th. Look, the state of Georgia versus Nancy Benoit. Nancy Benoit. No first name unknown, no last name unknown. And it's not Chris Benoit, the suspect here. It's against Nancy Benoit. What do you think about that? Comment below. But there it is. But they didn't include the subpoena. So I don't know what the subpoena, I don't know what exactly they requested. But we can figure it out by looking at the response. It says, we are in receipt of the subpoena served on Wachovia Bank for documents pertaining to the above referenced matter. What's the above referenced matter? We don't know because the subpoena is not in here. It says, pursuant to that subpoena, please see the enclosed document for a listing of records delivered with this letter. Please be aware that our search for records is limited to accounts relating to only Wachovia Bank, N.A. This constitutes Wachovia Bank's final response to your subpoena, and this matter will be closed. It says if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact our office, and then there you can see the signature. And how it says here, please see the enclosed document for a listing of records delivered with this letter. And that list is right here. So the records that were delivered, right here you can see the statements right here. And then here's the paper entries, the total copies. So it was 34 pages. And I'm going to have to look closer at this because scrolling through, there's a lot of pages, but I don't think it's 34. I think some pages are missing. So I'm going to have to take a closer look at this. But point I'm getting at here is that there was information that was requested that the actual subpoena is missing. It's not in here. And the only way we know that it even existed is because the response to the subpoena is included in here. Now, my thoughts on this subpoena, considering this matter is Georgia versus Nancy Benoit, and that they're requesting financial statements, was that maybe this was about that enterprise rent-a-car situation and the billing for that rent-a-car. But when I looked into that to see if that matched up, it's not the same thing. We will talk more about that later in this video. But one thing that might be important to point out is that this specific subpoena references a different case number than the other subpoenas that say that they are for the state of Georgia versus FNU, LNU. So make of that what you will. And then you can see we have account summary balances, and it's just awkward to put this kind of information online. You will get access to these documents and you can look through them if you'd like. Again, quick recap. For the second subpoena issued, we don't actually have the subpoena, so we don't know the date the grand jury was set to convene. But this subpoena, it says, was received by Wachovia Bank on June 28th of 2007 for the state of Georgia versus Nancy Benoit for a case number that's different from the other subpoena, and this response letter was dated July 2nd of 2007. So let's add this subpoena to our timeline, and that little 1 is there because unfortunately for this one, since the original subpoena is missing, we don't know the date on which the grand jury was scheduled to convene in this matter. The next subpoena is in the section that begins on page 139 of the documents, and it's in Detective Shelton's summary. And this subpoena is on page 150, and you can see the State of Georgia, County of Fayette, subpoena for the production of documentary evidence. And this particular subpoena is to CSC Holdings, Inc. And we went over the details surrounding this particular subpoena in, I think, part 16, the chat rooms, or maybe part 18 when I talked about the Wikipedia edit, maybe even in both. And this says, greetings, you are hereby commanded to be and appear in Fayette County Grand Jury on the 10th day of August, 2007 at 9:00 a.m. and bring with you there to be presented certain documents, items, articles, or things, to wit, any and all subscriber information on an IP address that has been redacted here. And as was covered in previous videos, this IP address belonged to the home of Matthew Greenberg, the infamous Wikipedia bandit who posted about Nancy's death prior to discovery of the crime scene. And the times of the specific posts are displayed in universal time. And here in parentheses, it says that Wikipedia has informed police that 4:01 a.m. Universal Time would be 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This subpoena is requesting information on these dates and times that would include registration and account information, such as full name, date of birth, social security number, address, telephone numbers, etc. And again, it says failure to disclose could impede an ongoing criminal investigation. And this information is to be used as evidence by the state of Georgia in a certain case pending before the court in the matter of the state of Georgia versus FNU LNU. So again, same situation. And it says, herein fail not under penalty of law. And this subpoena, the issue date here, this 29th day of June 2007. And then here it says witness, the Honorable Pascal A. English, and then the list of all the other judges of the court, and the signature. And then again, just like the other subpoena, it says that in lieu of appearing, they can mail this to Investigator Shelton at Fayette County Sheriff's Department or fax them. So that's what happened. In lieu of appearing, they did provide this information by fax to the police. I would imagine these grand juries still took place on the scheduled dates, but I think this means that these witnesses didn't need to physically be present in court as long as they provided the documents and information requested prior to the grand jury taking place. But again, we have FNU, LNU, so we don't know the name of the defendant. Was it Benoit, or was it someone or something bigger? If it was Benoit, then why the big secret behind needing to have it first name unknown, last name unknown? Let me know what you think. And I'm going to be doing one of these general recaps after each subpoena. So the third subpoena issued was on the 29th day of June 2007 for a grand jury to convene on the 10th day of August 2007 at 9 o'clock a.m. And the case number again is 0705855. And that's the same case number as the first subpoena for information about the Delta Airlines flight change. And we'll add this third subpoena to our timeline. Please excuse my smudgies. And continuing on by order of date issued, the next subpoena we're going to look at is in the section that begins on page 348 of the documents in the American Express information. I'm not sure if this particular subpoena has even been referenced yet in all of the videos that I've done, because this particular section contains a lot of financial information that I'm not really comfortable showing in a video. But these documents will be available to you shortly. If you really need to look through these pages, you can do so at that time. But we're just looking at the grand jury subpoenas right now. The subpoena for the American Express information is on page 350. It says subpoena for the production of evidence, State of Georgia, Fayette County, to American Express. And it says urgent pleas, ongoing homicide investigation. This says you are hereby required to be and appear at the Fayette County Superior Court before the grand jury of said county in the grand jury room of the Fayette County Courthouse at 9 o'clock a.m. on the 10th day of August 2007, and to bring with you into said court certain evidence to be used by the state of Georgia in a certain case pending before the court in the matter of the state of Georgia plaintiff against FNU LNU defendant there pending. The following are hereby subpoenaed, and I'm right here. They want any and all information, including but not limited to account balances, statements, payments, and transactions from March 1st, 2007 through June 30th, 2007 for American Express accounts. And then here the account numbers are redacted. And then it says right here, or any other accounts in the names of Christopher Benoit, Nancy Benoit, or Wolverine Sports. And then it says failure to provide information could hinder an ongoing criminal investigation. Herein fail not under penalty of law. And then the witnesses and all of that. It's the same jargon as all the others. And this subpoena was issued the 10th day of July, 2007. And just like the other subpoenas, it says that in lieu of appearing, they can mail or fax the requested information to Detective Harper at Fayette County Sheriff's Department. And it looks like American Express chose to fax the documents in lieu of appearing. And because I don't think I've gone over this previously, let's take a look at this response letter. It says, "Dear Sir, Madam, receipt of the subpoena for records with regard to the above referenced matter is hereby acknowledged and the requested documents are enclosed." Then it also says that when reviewing the documents, you may notice some missing months and that there was no activity during those months, therefore no statements are provided. It says if we can be of any further assistance, please do not hesitate to contact us. And then right there is the name and the address. Now, what I find strange about this is the information police wanted. Well, let's look at it. It's right down here. They wanted all of this American Express account information, balances, statements, payments, transactions, for 4 full months, March 1st through June 30th, for 3 different accounts, Chris, Nancy, and their business, Wolverine Sports. So it doesn't make sense to me why there would be quote-unquote months that there was no activity. Does that seem right? I don't know. I don't really know a lot about business, but it seems like you'd have at least something every month for, a statement? You don't get a statement of showing interest accrued? Just nothing for months. The documents are attached, and there's quite a few pages. There's so much information in here for this American Express account. There's actually 57 pages of documents that begin on page 351 here. And it's actually within these 57 pages. You can see more about this in part 7. But it's actually within these 57 pages where I found this receipt for the Publix store, which you can see right here. It's on page 404 of the documents, and it continues on here to page 405. And it's this receipt where you can see, where is it? Right here. Cashier confirmed, age over 21. Right there is the Dynamite Merlot and the Coors Light cans on the receipt. And those items were found at the crime scene. And also in this section of documents, if we keep scrolling through, we can find this copy of the receipt for those purchases with Nancy's signature on it. You can see right here the purchase was 6/22/07 at 5:19 p.m. And as you can see, that matches the time and date on the itemized receipt, as does the total purchase amount of $203.82. So in my opinion, this proves that it was Nancy who purchased the alcohol that was found at the crime scene. And she purchased these items that Friday of June 22nd, 2007, the very day investigators believe she was murdered. And I have had people ask me about why this address on the receipt is for a P.O. box in Lakeland, Florida. And they were asking me about that. Like, did she buy this in Lakeland, Florida, or what? So this address is actually where the Publix corporate headquarters is located. And the P.O. box is the mailing address for community relations correspondence. And at the bottom of the itemized receipt, we can find that Nancy shopped at store number 0546. And if you'll notice right here, it also says that this is the Publix at Peachtree East, and there's a phone number there. And with some simple research online, we can find that all of this matches up to the receipt. The store number 0546, and it even matches the phone number. Nancy was shopping at the Publix in East Peachtree City, Georgia. And that's why it says Lakeland, Florida right here, but also says Peachtree East right here. And this receipt is the last page of all the American Express information. But again, why is this FNU LNU when we know what homicide investigation this is? Who is the defendant? If it's Benoit, why not just say so, like the other subpoena says the defendant is Nancy Benoit? I'll put a link below where you can read more about the use of the acronym FNU-LNU, and you can make up your own mind as to whether use of this acronym in this case is suspicious or not. And that was the fourth subpoena issued on the 10th day of July, 2007, for a grand jury set to convene at 9:00 a.m. on the 10th day of August, 2007. And the case number referenced here matches the case number on the other subpoena in the matter of Georgia versus FNU LNU, 0705855. And here's our timeline updated to include this fourth subpoena. Okay, I need to switch directions here for a minute. If you recall, when we were looking through the second subpoena, what I would call the missing subpoena, there were, I think, 37 pages of documents attached, and I said I would need to look through them. Well, I think this is the perfect time to talk about those documents, because then I can perfectly segue from that into the next subpoena, as I'm sure you'll see. Okay, so I was counting the pages of documents. It said it was 34 pages that were included. But this is a head scratcher for me because there's something in here that I'm not sure what, if anything, this has to do with the Benoits. Maybe this was accidentally included when these documents were gathered together for the records request. I don't know. But the letter said 34 pages of documents are included. So I started scrolling and I counted 27 pages of banking account summaries for the Benoits. And then on the 28th page is this document. You can see right here it says Subpoena Ducis Tecum, civil. Subpoena ducis tecum is a Latin legal phrase that means under penalty to bring with you. And according to Legal Dictionary, this type of subpoena is used to compel the production of documents. And this says this is for the Commonwealth of Virginia, Prince William County Circuit Court, in the matter of David William Grimm versus Sandy Kimberly Grimm. Does anybody watching recognize these names or have any idea why, how, or if these people are connected in any way to the Benoits, WWE, or just the wrestling world in general? I'm leaning in the direction that this was somehow accidentally included with the Benoit documents. I'm not sure how that could have happened, but I'm thinking this is likely a mistake on the part of Wachovia Bank. More specifically, the subpoena department at Wachovia Bank, because that's who received this summons for this Grimm case. This says, to the person authorized by law to serve this process, you are commanded to summon Corporation Service Company registered agent for Wachovia Bank. So Wachovia received this subpoena, and I think that somebody at Wachovia in the subpoena department got that mixed in with the documents that they were turning over to Fayetteville for the Benoit case. That's my guess. Because this subpoena for the Grimms is an order for Wachovia to turn over any and all monthly bank statements for David William Grimm, individually or jointly. And it even had his social security number here. I blacked that out. And this says, including but not limited to checking, savings, and money market accounts, or any other accounts from January 1st, 2004 to the present. And here you can see the address of the court and the date, July 2nd, 2007, at 4:00 p.m. in Manassas, Virginia. And at that time, to permit such party or someone acting in his or her behalf to inspect and copy, test, or sample such tangible things in your possession, custody, or control. This subpoena ducis tecum is issued by the attorney for and on behalf of Sandy Kimberly Grimm. And then here's the attorney information and the date this was issued, June 12th, 2007. And down here at the bottom of the page, it says notice to recipient of the summons, who was Wachovia Bank, remember, and it says see next page for further information. For return of service, see next page of this form. And scrolling down, we find the return of service form with instructions for Wachovia for how to comply with this subpoena and instructions to the individual authorized to serve the subpoena to Wachovia. And at the bottom of the page, it says, I, Robert Cooper, counsel for Sandy Kimberly Grimm, hereby certify a copy of the foregoing subpoena was mailed to Betty Moore Sandler, counsel for David William Grimm, on the 12th day of June 2007. I did look up these people, and I did find some articles that made the news. I'm pretty sure it's the same people. However, I really get the feeling this document doesn't belong with the Benoit case file, and I don't feel comfortable dragging these people into this conversation any more than I already have. So, in an attempt to find balance between thoroughly digging into the Benoit investigation and respecting these people's privacy, what I'll do is put links in the description box to the articles I found, and if you're interested in digging further, feel free. I'd be interested to know your thoughts. So anyway, that's the last page of that subpoena for Grimm. I'm not including this one on the Benoit timeline, obviously, but I did want to include it with the grand jury documents, so there it is. But if we keep scrolling after this return of service for the subpoena for Grimm, we come to this document from Fayette County Sheriff's Office, and from here we're going to segue right into our next subpoena for the Benoit investigation. This is dated July 19th, 2007. To Wachovia Bank from Detective Harper in reference to this homicide investigation. And this says, this is a request for additional information regarding case number 356683. So this is in reference to this original subpoena, the one that I call the missing subpoena, that I only became aware of because of this response letter. And I do think I should point out here that I did notice that this letter says this is a request for additional information regarding your case, number 356683. The way that's worded, I don't understand that because this is a letter from Detective Harper to Wachovia. So the wording, quote, your case number, makes it seem as if this is a case that Wachovia has open and pending in this matter. However, if we look at the response to the original subpoena, it clearly shows that this letter is in response to a subpoena received in the matter of State of Georgia versus Nancy Benoit, and the case number matches. But this letter is dated July 19th, and this says that in an original subpoena, which we don't have a copy of, detectives requested statement and transaction information for all accounts in the names of Christopher, Nancy, and Daniel Benoit, as well as information on any account in the business name of Wolverine Sports, Inc. for the months of May and June 2007. I received some information, and I is Detective Harper. He writes, I received some information, but due to the June transactions being unavailable at the time, I did not receive any. Please forward the June 2007 transactions as they are vital to this homicide investigation. Furthermore, in the information received, I located information on a David J. Benoit residing at 390 Sherwood Road, Fayetteville, Georgia. Information regarding this account can be omitted. What are the odds that David J. Benoit in the same town and totally irrelevant to the Chris Benoit crime, and yet the subpoena department at Wachovia included them with the records they sent to Fayetteville County? Another reason I'm thinking it was Wachovia who made the error of including that subpoena for records relating to David Grimm. The letter says the info can be faxed to Detective Harper at this number or mailed to that address. And there's a number where he can be reached for questions. And then it's signed, thank you, Detective Ethan Harper. And then scrolling through to the next page is the fax cover letter, recent statements for Benoit, you can see right here. And then here you have the statements that are from June through July. And there are 17 pages of statements for Chris, Nancy, and Wolverine Sports through the month of June. And to recap, I don't know if this can be considered a subpoena since it's not officially signed by a judge, but this is a request for additional information that wasn't received with this original subpoena that I call the missing subpoena, the one that we don't have, but we have this response letter to it. So for purposes of this video, I am including it with the subpoenas. This letter requesting additional information is dated July 19th, 2007, and I just want to point out again that the case number on this letter matches the case number for the State of Georgia versus Nancy Benoit. And it is a different case number than on the other subpoenas in the matter of State of Georgia versus FNU, LNU. And then here's our timeline updated to include this request for additional information. And just a reminder, there's little ones next to the June 28th subpoena and the July 19th letter for additional information is to note that we do not know the date that the grand jury was set to convene in these matters because the original subpoena is missing. And before we move on to the next subpoena, we need to add something else to our timeline because on August 10th, that was the date that the first grand jury was scheduled to convene at 9:00 a.m. in the matter of the state of Georgia versus FNU-LNU. And the evidence and documents therein to be presented was from CSC Holdings regarding the Wikipedia postings by Matthew Greenberg, as well as the American Express accounts. Now, the next subpoena on our timeline is one that was just recently covered in part 23 of my Benoit series about the enterprise rent-a-car information. So instead of really doing a lot of reading through that, again, I am just going to show it to you here on the screen and point out that this particular subpoena was issued on the 21st day of August 2007, and the information that they wanted was account balances, statements, payments, and transactions involving the June 26, 2007 American Express charge and refund for the rental vehicle, and any information as to whether the vehicle was picked up and returned. And this was for a grand jury set to convene at 9:00 a.m. on the 10th day of September 2007 in the matter of the state of Georgia versus FNU-LNU. And we talked more about that in detail in part 23. So if you want more information about that, you can go check that out right now. Link to the playlist is in the description box below. But it also says here, just like all the others, that in lieu of appearing, they may mail or fax the requested information to Detective Harper. And just like with the other grand jury subpoenas in this Benoit case file, it looks like Enterprise faxed the documents in lieu of appearing. But again, why FNU-LNU? Do they use that acronym when the defendant is deceased? I don't know. Are there any lawyers watching who might know why they would use this acronym? Like I've said before, in my own research, that acronym is used when the defendant is a big name or entity that if it ends up that a grand jury finds not enough evidence to prosecute, then it's a way to protect the name of the large entity from undue press, as well as to protect Fayette Sheriff's Office from prosecution or retaliation, sort of like we saw with the Signature Pharmacy raid and the repercussions from that, which was covered in the Benoit Extra number 3. I thought maybe Georgia versus Nancy Benoit had to do with this rental car information, since as per the rental agreement, it was Nancy who was the one responsible for the rental charges. But it was the American Express card that was charged in this instance, and the subpoena for Georgia versus Nancy Benoit wanted information from their Wachovia personal bank accounts, Daniel's savings account, and Wolverine Sports. And also it clearly says right here that this enterprise car rental was a matter of the state of Georgia versus FNU-LNU. So any guesses or thoughts regarding Georgia versus Nancy Benoit, please don't hesitate to share in the comments because I really have no clue. And to quickly recap, this subpoena for the information for the enterprise rental car was issued on the 21st day of August 2007 for a grand jury set to convene at 9:00 a.m. on the 10th day of September 2007 for the state of Georgia against FNU-LNU. And we can see that the case number matches up with the other subpoenas for the state of Georgia versus FNU-LNU. And we'll add this enterprise rent-a-car subpoena to our timeline. And we're coming up on our last subpoena in these documents, but before we get to that, I should mention that it was on September 10th that the grand jury convened at the Fayette County Courthouse at 9:00 a.m. in the matter of the state of Georgia versus FNU-LNU, and that was the date on the Delta Airlines and the Enterprise Rent-A-Car subpoenas. All right, and the last subpoena we have to look at is on page 461 of the 464 pages of the Benoit case file, so it's at the very end of the documents. And this subpoena was also covered in previous videos. And reading through this, the language is the same as all of the others. It says, the State of Georgia, County of Fayette, subpoena for the production of evidence to Wachovia Bank. And then it's greetings. You are hereby commanded to be and appear in Fayette County Grand Jury on the 10th day of December 2007 at 9:00 a.m. and bring with you there to be presented certain documents, items, articles, or things to wit. And what they wanted was any information available, including the image for check number 2509, drawn off Wachovia business checking account, redacted, in the name of Wolverine Sports, Inc., in the amount of $650. Failure to disclose could impede an ongoing criminal investigation to be used as evidence by the State of Georgia in a certain case pending before the court in the matter of State of Georgia versus FNU LNU. Herein fail not under penalty of law. The 27th day of October 2007. Witness the Honorable Pascal A. English and all the other judges of the court. And then it's a signature there. And then the same as in the other subpoenas. It says that in lieu of appearing, you may mail your response to Detective Harper, Fayette County Sheriff's Office. Or you can fax them to this number. And it looks like Wachovia Bank decided to fax the information in lieu of appearing in court. Because immediately following the subpoena in these documents, we have the Wachovia Bank response. And this is dated November 26th. This says here that this is regarding a subpoena that they received on November 7th for the State of Georgia versus FNU LNU, and there's the case number. And this says, Dear Sir or Madam, we are in receipt of the subpoena served on Wachovia Bank for documents pertaining to the above referenced matter. Pursuant to that subpoena, please see the enclosed document for a listing of records delivered with this letter. It says, please be aware that our search for records is limited to accounts relating only to Wachovia Bank N.A. This constitutes the final response in this matter will be closed. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact our office. Sincerely, Subpoena Department, Wachovia Bank. And then here's the list of the records delivered, and it was what was requested. They wanted information regarding that specific check number. And what check was it? It was this one right here. This is the check that Chris Benoit had given to Ray Rawls when they met that Friday, June 22nd in 2007, so that Benoit could purchase some tights. And this is a copy of the check that Benoit gave to Rawls to pay for the tights. And here you can see Benoit's signature, and it was for the amount of $650, and you can see the date right here. Below that, you can see the back of the check. You can see Ray Rawls' signature when he endorsed it to cash it. And to recap, that was the last subpoena in the Benoit documents, and it was issued on the 27th day of October 2007 for a grand jury set to convene on the 10th day of December 2007 at 9:00 a.m. And we can see the case number matches the other subpoenas pertaining to the matter of the State of Georgia versus FNU LNU. And we can go ahead and add this Wachovia Bank subpoena to our timeline of grand jury events. And then the final date we have on our timeline is December 10th, the date the grand jury was set for the Wachovia Bank info, specifically the check Benoit gave to Ray Rawls, which we just looked at. And that is the complete list of the grand jury subpoenas. These are the dates of all of the grand jury documents that are contained within the Benoit case file, and the dates that the grand jury would convene at the courthouse in Fayetteville, Georgia. And believe it or not, that is the very last page of the Benoit case file. I cannot believe this project is almost finished. When I started this, I had no idea how I was ever going to get this done, and now here we are. So the only thing we have left to cover is way back up here near the beginning of the documents in Detective Harper's case summary, which was 52 pages on its own with its own little subsections detailing each step of the investigation. And we went over every word of that along the way, except for the very last subsection titled Conclusions. And it would be 3 pages of conclusions, and that's what we are going to look at in the very last video. And then I'm going to take a little break, and we're going to move on to Owen Hart from there. And that's all that I have for you today. If you like what you see and would like to support the channel, you can find a link to my Cash App in the description box below. Donations of any amount are welcome and appreciated. And your donations allow me to have more time for research and video creation. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I thank you so much for watching. This has been AMK at Purple Sky 11, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!